You've made the point on Twitter. The priority, obviously, is restoring power and helping those who are affected. And, of course, our thoughts are going out to them and have been all week long. At this point, is there a working theory as to what the main culprit of this problem has been?
Yeah, I just want to start by echoing that point that, people are suffering. People have lost their lives. I really want to commend our frontline energy workers who, in the midst of a pandemic, are out there trying to restore power as quickly as possible. Safety remains paramount, and that's where our thoughts and concerns are. In terms of what caused this and what to do about it, it's too early to tell. We need to do a really careful, thoughtful analysis to identify what has gone wrong here. I think people are so quick to view things through partisan lenses, whether it be political or for their preferred fuel source, want to point fingers and say, well, this occurred because renewables didn't show up, or this occurred because there was a failure in gas delivery. It looks to be a combination of an extreme weather event coupled with a dramatic spike in demand for electricity that led to failures across fuel sources. And we just have to be very careful and deliberate as we identify what went wrong to make sure we're not facing situations like this. We're at least better prepared in the future.
Right. You're absolutely right about it becoming a prism, a political football in many cases. But when you look at what contributes to generation, at least for the past couple of weeks, let's just say, the percentage that comes from wind and solar looks negligible. How would you build a case that says that that element of energy was to blame? So,
again, there were instances clearly where I think about half of expected capacity of wind went down. But we saw that with gas, with nuclear, and with coal as well. We've just got to examine it. The generation mix in Texas has changed substantially over the last decade. I think Texas's use of coal, for instance, is down dramatically over the last decade. Would those retired coal plants have been able to step up and provide necessary supply in the situation? We need to examine that and see. But I think it's clear that no one fuel source was to be blamed for this event. Certainly not renewables, not gas, not coal, not nuclear. This was an across-the-board crisis.
Commissioner, Texas is somewhat unique, though, isn't it? It's not connected to the grid. It's deregulated. It's energy generation business overall. Does that have anything to do with what may be going on?
Look, as they like to say down there, everything is bigger and better in Texas. Texas has unique attributes in that it's big enough, it's got the people and the demand for electricity, and it's the biggest energy producer in the country, and it's got the supply to meet that demand. Certainly, looking at energy infrastructure, transmission, are all things that we need to examine, that this commission will play a key role in. But as with looking at fuel sources, examining the Texas grid, I know the governor has called for an examination here. Those are things that we need to do, but not jump to any conclusions at this early stage in the aftermath or still ongoing event.
So what are you going to be looking most closely at, or what should people who are going to try to come to conclusions look most closely at when we can actually sufficiently look at what happened here to understand it?
So at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, my colleagues and I, our foremost responsibility is reliability. It's looking at situations like this to ensure that when Americans hit the switch, the lights come on, the heat comes on. In the summer, the air comes on. Reliability is boring. It's complicated. It's difficult to tweet about. But at the end of the day, it is our foremost responsibility. And I am confident that if we take the politics out of this and let the engineers and the economists and the experts examine what went on here, we will figure out ways to continue the energy transition that's taking place in Texas and around the country while maintaining the reliable, affordable grid that really sets Texas and the United States of America apart from the rest of the world.
Finally, I wonder, does part of the investigation or the probe, do you expect it to look into whether or not there needs to be more cooperation with neighboring grids, either on the western or the eastern side in Texas?
again, that is a complex dynamic that raises a lot of technical and jurisdictional questions. And so I don't want to get ahead of my colleagues, of Congress, of the Texas legislature. That's a really loaded subject that calls for a calm, deliberative examination.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.